spark does not shine, is not there. So if we think the spark is fire, the same as the flame itself. And yet it's not made. So we spent the whole day this morning and part of it yesterday. I wanted to explain the word mayor over here has a very unique meaning. The word mayor over here is the same as you say, you give him panosa. Where you're putting him in a different category. Mayor over here is not, it illuminates and you can see across the street, like I was saying. Not the functional element of mayor. It brings light into the world. Light is a special creation from God. Light is not the result of fire. Fire doesn't create light. God created it. And it was, as you said, camouflaging the fire. The whole phenomenon of light. I hope I'm not going to lose you. I'm going to explain to you a little bit into it. What is the phenomenon of light? We've spoken, it's not new in our approach. Phenomenon, a light is directly related to sight. You don't understand. Which faculty of the person appreciates light? It is sight. What is unique about sight versus the other senses? Touch, smell, taste. Sight and hearing, sight is unique. What is the difference?
You feel yourself.
To me?
When you're touched, when you touch something, you feel yourself. When you see something, you see what's there.
What's there? It's not touching you. So how do you know it's there? Normally we say our verification that something is there because it hits me. So I know it's there. Here inside, you do not need further verification but by sight. How come? This question we presented many, many times, maybe 100 times over the years. What is it? And we pointed out, I'm going elaborating on this because I wanted to finish this today. It's interesting that a child whose intellect is not yet developed, when you show him something interesting, an interesting picture, what does he do? The first thing. First thing, what does he do? He tastes it, puts it in his mouth. Interesting thing. Why is that? Because as long as he didn't touch it in his mouth, it's not real to him. By an adult, this is the same thing. When you touch somebody has to, when he touches something, he knows that it's there because it touched him. That he touched it. So he verifies it by his own experience. He doesn't verify its existence. In fact, it verifies his existence. So he knows it by virtue of himself being there. But that's not real knowledge is. Let me explain where that question comes from, real knowledge. Phenomenon of seichel, intellect. Or we say only a human being possesses seichel. my big talk, intellect versus instinct, I hope you guys listen to it. Only human being possesses seichel. And people today will scream, not true, you chauvinistic human being. The dog also has seichel. And the cat also has seichel. So we say zero, no iota, no touch of seichel in any animal except for the human being, who is not an animal at all. It's a different creation. What is in fact the phenomenon of seichel? God created the world. Every faculty, touch, hearing, smell, relates to the created object. Sight relates to the creator of the object. This is the direction from which sight verifies that the object exists. An interesting thing, in the Torah it says that if you want to, that halachically, if you want to establish a fact, there's only one way that can establish a fact beyond any challenge. If two witnesses attest to it and that they themselves saw it. If they saw it, they establish a fact. This is a very involved. I'm not going to go through the entire line of thought in here. But one thing, since they saw it, that means that they saw it, as I said, from God said that this exists. That's what means I saw it. As if God came to them and told them, this is true, this exists. That's a phenomenon of sight. Sight is the shot that you verify, you're sure that it's there, not because the object is there, because you touched it, because it affected you, but because it connects back and you see, because it relates back to the reality of the creation itself. And if you don't have chokhmah, seichel, that knows that there is reality, then sight wouldn't work. Sight works only on a human being. Do you want to turn it off? No, switch off the thermostat. Just the little switching on the bottom. Yeah, that auto. Okay, yes.
Yeah, I just noticed that when you said taste, touch, smell, that you left out hearing.
Well, hearing is the same thing. I didn't leave out hearing. I didn't go through count them all. Hearing is exactly the same thing, because hearing also hits your ear. You don't hear from a distance, you hear that which reaches you. Sight is a completely different experience. An interesting thing.
Hearing is like by inference in a way. It's inference.
But the inference is something that you
it's
experience.
The thing that
what it is that you hear is one thing, but the fact that you heard it is another thing. That is a physical experience. Sight is an intangible thing. Sight does not impose itself on you. The reason we see is because we have the intellect. We have Chokhmah, particularly. It makes sense that something is there because something is there. It's visible. That's what the creation of light brought about. You can see that we can talk about it 2 weeks in a row, but just want to point out this is the phenomenon of sight.
So the phenomenon of language is more connected with sight.
Yes, you're going on. Okay, so so the principle of Meir, it illuminates. That we say a spark does not illuminate, and the Lahav Ha'abuka does illuminate. Because we are talking about the principle of illumination. The principle of illumination is not just telling you that the object is there. Principle of illumination is telling you that God created this object. It's a completely different statement. In other words, if you see the object within the world, the context, a spark can also make it able to see. But Allah makes it visible within in a godly context. It's real. It's really there. Okay. I don't want to go any further in detail, but this is the principle. We can each reflect on it or just leave it alone. The point is this: when the Rebbe says over here that the spark, that the nitzut does not illuminate, and the lahav illuminates. And the reason is because the nitzut only has only has the light element, doesn't have the source of the light element. It's not connected to its source. To explain this, we use the analogy of the sun this morning. We pointed out that the sun, the illumination that the sun provides, is not by virtue of emanation of light, of the energy of light. It is the presence of the sun itself that makes day. In the presence of the sun, it cannot be dark. It cannot be dark. The sun is there. Not because it fights the darkness. There's no way that it can be dark. This is the elimination of negativity. Like we say, you give him a job, you eliminate his problem. Not you have illuminated, you've corrected it. You brought him to
How are you connecting this mashal of the sun with the avuka, the lahav, and the nitzat?
Right. The sun is the easiest thing for us, and say, although the sun is so removed, but we all recognize, we all sense that the sun is a unique power. That's called in Chassidus Etzem Behiri. Etzem Behiri means, and we all recognize it in one way or another. Etzem Behiri means the essence of brightness. Normally, brightness in our orientation is something that's created by combustion. There's an active means to create it. In the sun, there's an exception. Light in the sun is something that comes without effort. The sun it's just the presence of the sun. The sun doesn't have to work to illuminate the world. The sun arises and it becomes light. That is called the Etzem Hiri.
Does this correspond to the Avuka or the Lahav or both?
Okay, so the sun is the primary illustration of such a phenomenon, where it doesn't illuminate; it just removes darkness completely. On the secondary level, a much lower level, there is the Avuka and the Lahav. The Lahav, the flame of the Avuka. Avuka is like the torch, we said, the actual fire. And this is a flame that branches out, that tongues out from the fire. That this is what illuminates. We all know that the simmering coal does not illuminate. What illuminates the active fire, the active flame. So this active flame, even though it's just a flame, but this flame has a base, a source. There's a reality behind it. It's connected to the source. This is why it has a quality that it is Meir. Meir means it's telling you there is no such thing as darkness. That's what Meir means. It brings light itself. Not it illuminates by fighting the darkness. It just removes darkness. It's a flame. For this, we brought down the sun. It's very difficult to relate to that concept in a flame. With our scientific minds, it's very difficult to relate. But when it comes to the sun, a little bit we see that this is something bigger than the way science looks at it.
So we're using the sun really to understand the Lahav and its source.
Right.
Forget about the Nitzitz. It's not involved with the Nitzitz here.
Right. So the word Meir over here does not mean illuminating on the worldly scale, but illuminating on the godly scale, so to speak, bringing light itself.
The Nitzitz does not do that.
This cannot do that because it doesn't have a base. The Nitzitz is comparable to giving him a donation. Okay. So we are on the last line on page Chofalev. Even though we already, this is probably visit number 5, but that's where we're up to now. So that's what we say, that the Nitzutz is a moshel for Kelim. That just as the Nitzutz is also fire, yet it lacks the principle of fire, but then that it's Meir, because it's not connected to the source. K'moi kein b'chinas ha'kelim. K'moi kein, the similar inyan is in b'chinas ha'kelim and b'chinas of the kelim. Shehein elokus mamos. Where on the one hand, they are elokus mamash, just like the Nitzutz is fire mamash. The kelim are also elokus mamash. Elokus Mamash means that they're really real. I'll finish the line and I'll go back to this. Shenetzal mibechinas asmus Yisrael. That emanates from the bechina, from the aspect of asmus Yisrael. When they say something was netzal, was drawn, was emanated from asmus Yisrael, means that it has an inherent truth that does not need to be proven. That's like a spark. You don't have to prove that it's fire. It's fire. Like we said the last couple of days, there's no way that the spark is going to be there. You're not going to see it. It itself is. It cannot be. You cannot ignore it. It's there. It's real. And yet it's lacking a certain principle, even though it is representative of the flame itself. The principle of being connected is a completely different phenomenon. The kelim are also the same thing. Then elokus mamush. That is drawn from Asmus Yisrael. From the aspect of Koyach HaGvul. The Koyach HaGvul in Asmus Yisrael there is Koyach Bli Gvul. There is the infinite representation and the finite representation, measured representation. And that's a separate union. I don't know if we're going to go into this now. But it is Netzah from Asmus Yisrael. The Komokem, yet still, but there is this phenomenal thing that it comes in a manner, in a separation manner from the Etz. Okay, I'm going to explain the In HaKelim from our perspective. Kelim as we experience them. So we should understand these are not just plain words. So what does it mean? The Kelim are Netzel Plasmas and Yisrael, and they're Elokus Mamash. The most common Kelim that we've been using, a cup, a table, a chair. Each one of these that I mentioned although this is a physical design that enables you to act and to live according to what your human perception should be. You perceive that there should be a board in front of your table. You perceive that you should be able to sit on the chair, lift it. Or you should be able to drink water without bending down and bring the water to your mouth. You know, these kind of things. It would seem that this is like an afterthought.
Thank you.
An afterthought.
What's like an afterthought?
These kelim, these means, these tools, are not real in themselves.
You may think they're a means to an end.
You may think there is a means to an end. In fact, they capture, they represent the principle that they represent perfectly, but on a worldly level. On the level which is detached from the source.
Which principle is that?
On the worldly level that is detached from the source.
Which principle are they representing over there?
The human principle that they represent. A table. A table, I've said many times, this is a human concept that comes from the nefesh.
Okay.
The nefesh does not have a design of a table with 4 legs. The four legs, this is something which becomes a keli for the concept of the table. But this keli fits the principle that it embraces it perfectly. To the extent that when a human being sits in front of a table, is he aware that he's sitting in front on a board that's supported by four legs? You know what I'm saying? Is there anything extraneous in this experience but the fact that there is the reality of a table? You follow what I'm saying? If it were not perfectly, so to speak, like we learned before, that the oil is mislabesh in the keli, it's totally imbued in the keli, and embraces the keli and takes it over completely. Although this is just a keli, and it can stand separate from the source. A table can stand even after the person leaves. There's no person sitting next to it. When is a table a real table? In truth, a table in the full sense of the word. When human beings sit around it. That's when it is a table in the full sense of the word. It has the Ayin and the keli. The keli is made of a different material, of wood, and it needed a master carpenter to put it together, a master engineer to design it properly, and then the carpenter put it together. It was not created by the human concept. Yet, it captures the concept totally, completely, and perfectly. To the extent that when a person sits by a table, he feels totally natural. He doesn't feel that he is using a strange tool, object. It fits completely with his idea of sitting properly as a human being and learning. This is the principle of a keli. On the one hand, a keli, as he said already, is a lakus mamash. It is actually, it is designed to capture the human concept in our motion. But, on the other hand, it could be a table with a human being sitting next to it, and it could be a table standing on it by itself. At the time when the table stands by itself, there's no human being sitting around. It does not illuminate. It does not bring the human message.
Even if it's in the dining room?
Even if it's in the dining room, it's still an allusion to it. It's not a living thing. That's what we said, illuminate. Illuminate, it brings the real thing. There'll be a real life into it.
And when the human being sits at the table, is it the human being that's illuminating?
The human being is the oir that is mislavish in this keli. As a result of that, this keli brings that oir out.
Say that again.
When a human being sits next to the table, there is a perfect fission between the human being, the oil, and the cave.
The human being is the or?
The human being is the oil.
Because he's an etzem?
No, because he's a human being. The phenomenon of a table for a human being is a perfect fit. That we discussed many, many times before. So when he's sitting together, yes, there is the oil and the keli. And the keli is, quote unquote, made of the same stuff. How is the keli designed? To represent and reflect the human spirit.
What is made out of the same stuff? Which stuff?
The spirit, the human spirit.
Oh.
I have so much, Mamish, I have pity. We're talking about such things. It is totally novel to all of you. You've never heard anything like this. But what can you do? We decided to learn AyinBase. And we decided to learn it, to really learn it. So it's by your choice that you're being taken through all this torture.
Is that a human being or and keli? Is this the first time you're mentioning a human being is or?
No, it's not. Okay, but we're getting the idea. This is like, a means to understand these words here. Now this is emanation from Atzma Seirin Soif, but it comes with Pchinas Hadola Min Ho'etz. There's an element of being separated, even though it is actually designed.
Can I help you?
Yes, 1 second. Designed to capture the human spirit. And as we said just a moment ago, many times repeated it, when a human being sits by the table, he's not sitting and using something extraneous. He has no choice but to sit and use the table because it's not appropriate otherwise. He fits with it completely, like a hand in a glove. This is the meaning of these words. Yes, Baruch, your turn.
So, in this marshal of the human being at the table, for the kelim we're talking about, an elokus, it's like the human spirit, this is the elokus.
Right.
And the table, this is the keli.
Right.
And they're made out of the same stuff because the table is a totally appropriate, whatever you call it.
The design of the table is a reflection of the
human
spirit that made it. Yes.
So the table is a keli, but it's separate. Is that also going back to the mitzvah?
Yes, definitely. But it's separate.
You get up and walk away from a table.
That's right.
I'm pushing a little bit here, but what would be, if we're talking in the marshal of the human being at the table, and the table is a keli, it's like a nitzitz, which is muvtal, what would be the element of the lahav?
The lahav is when the human being sits at the table.
The act of sitting at the table.
Right. When the human being sits at the table, you don't notice the table. It's real on a fundamental level. Everything is perfect. Just when you give the Moshe from halacha. Can you imagine how many days we are going with it? The Moshe from the halacha is mentioned maybe in the beginning of the week. A crumb of food on a plate, and you carry it on Shabbos. If the food stuff is less than a shear of Hitzor, you're potter, even though you carry the other plate. The answer is, at that time, the plate is not a plate. It's serving the crumb of food. It's not an entity unto itself. When you come into a room, see, these are all simple human experiences. You come into a room and there's a table in the room. So you begin to think, oh, what's a table doing here? It must be a dining room. But you notice a table as an entity. When you come into a room and you see people sitting around the table, do you see the table? Do you have a question what the table is? There's no question, the table doesn't even exist. It's part of the human entourage. This is the shalhavas that's connected to the love. That illuminates. That, by the way, tells you the truth, what's going on over here. I think sufficient. You want to go further? Well, that's sufficient, right? Okay. Right, Akiva?
What is the shalhavas in the mashal?
Shalhavas means the flame.
Yes.
Mish mashal.
In the mashal of the person at the table.
The human being.
The human being, okay,
He's a spirit behind this table.
You used
It seems like it's his.
You used the word shall have us alav a minute ago. That's what he's asking.
No, I'm not asking that. I'm asking that it's the essence of the person, his malchus, so to speak. This is the source. This is source.
Connected to the source. This is connected to the source. When a person sits by a table, this is the oil coming out of that source. But that oil is connected to the source.
Shalhavas is like the abuka?
Right. No, the avuka is the human being himself.
Right, that's the human being. You say
Shalhavas is the oil emanating from that.
Shalhavas and lav was the same thing?
Yeah, in this case.
The way you're talking.
Yes. When a human being is sitting at the table, he is acting like a human being, but the essence of the human being is there.
And that reality supersedes the reality of the table.
Completely. It completely takes your attention out of the table. When you come in, you see people sitting on the table. Are you going to ask the question, what's the table doing here?
doesn't. Looks like you're saying it nullifies the existence of the table.
It nullifies the existence as a separate existence on the table. It's completely embraced by the reality of the human presence. If you had people sit just like this in the row of chairs, and there was no table in the middle, you would say, "What's going on in here? Bring a table." Right? Why? Because that calls for it. Even though it's not there. You're projecting that it should be there. That's like the motion in the halacha of the plate that carries the crumb of food. All right. So we understand the significance of the fire being connected to the source or being disconnected from the source. Spark is a phenomenal motion. Spark is fire in the full sense of the word. But it's not connected to the source. As a result, it does not have this transformative effect. It only has the functional effect, but not the transformative effect.
It only has what?
The functional effect. It does illuminate for the moment. You're able to see something. But it doesn't transform the environment.
This would be like the chair actually present in the room without anyone there.
It's the same thing. Somebody was sitting and listening to us talking about chairs and tables. You say, what is this guy's wasting their time on? And yet, these waste of time concepts, this is what brings the sense of alakus into our mind, in our world, in the most frontally and straight statement possible. Like we just discussed, table and chairs, right? When human beings sit around the table, you can readily see what's going on. There's a real light, real things going on, real human beings, and therefore the table fits into the scene perfectly. Perfectly. Once you understand that, you open your eyes and take a look at the world. Is there anything in the world that's extraneous, doesn't fit? That's not real? That's out of whack? You understand what I'm saying? Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim v'ha'aretz. First thing God created the shamayim and ha'aretz. You lift your eyes and look at the shamayim. And the shamayim is a huge expanse. Expanse. And it has a multi-form of formulations. And deep blue and a light blue and all kinds of different. Is anything there extraneous that doesn't belong into your world? Anything there that you can't relate to? Unless you're a scientist. He says, no, I don't understand how this happened, so therefore it doesn't exist. All right, this will be it for this evening. And I hope you feel comfortable around the table. And all the oil that is fluttering and flashing around here, right? You should have a great Shabbos. Kol Tov.
Thank you.